So today we're taking a look at some retail history. We're actually going to go check out a mall that is near where I live. And this is a mall that I grew up going to, and then it definitely became a dead mall. And they knocked down most of it and they rebuilt it as a more modern outdoor lifestyle center. So my goal here is actually to walk through the new mall and kind of map out what it used to look like when I used to go to it. So this is Southglenn Mall, and it has been open again for a while, but I found this old photo of what it looked like when they closed it before the redevelopment. And they changed some things a lot, some things not very much. So here's what the layout, the floor plan looked like, and here's what it looks like today. So I would always go into this mall through Sears, so that's what we're gonna do. So this is the original Sears logo, a lot of the interior of the Sears. This is what it looked like when I went there in the 90s and in the 2000s. And as you can see, it looks like a Sears. It looks like you would expect a Sears to look. They've got this now hiring sign. I don't recommend that you apply. But there really wasn't anyone throughout this store as we walked through. Lots of merchandise, pretty much no one to buy it, and that person that was just walking back there was an employee, I believe. I saw several employees, zero other customers while I was there. And this was a nice Sears. I have made some purchases here. My family made a lot of purchases here when I was growing up, but it's just not very popular. And I mean, Sears is kind of not popular at the moment, but it's well stocked. It's super clean. It looks nice. It looks kind of dated, but it looks nice. But no one's coming to this mall to go to Sears. In fact, my take on it is still people aren't really coming to this mall to go to the stores at all. And the day we were here was the 4th of July, so that's not the biggest shopping day of the year, but still, people come to the restaurants here. They don't really come to shop here. And then I stepped into the bathroom and noticed that these 3 different faucets are completely different. And I feel like that was the perfect example of where this Sears is at. And here I remember coming to this section of the store a lot. There's a watch repair shop over here, and then these other little kind of kiosks, but you can see they have the lights off. No one's using these. But this watch repair shop, there was a really nice woman who worked here when I was growing up, but nobody's there right now.
Always my mom, forever my friend. There she is.
So we're gonna exit the Sears and go into what would have been the main hallway of Southglenn Mall. Now it is the streets of Southglenn, but here's what it used to look like. So that's the kind of thing you would expect when you would walk out into the hallway, and this is what you get now. So it's totally outdoors. They've structurally kept some elements like these ramps going down, these ramps and stairs flanking the ramps. That is how it would have looked when it was an interior mall. But now obviously there's tons of plants, there's this courtyard, and it's outdoors. It's one of these outdoor things, which this is in Centennial, Colorado, which is a little bit south of Denver. And this specific area is a little bit east of where I grew up. But it was super convenient when I was a kid, and this was the main mall that we went to. And there we are in the window. But we used to come here a lot, and I have tons of memories of this. But as happens with malls, it just started to decline. And as far as malls go, it actually was on the small side. And you'll see that during our tour today. There's still isn't that much to see, honestly. It doesn't take up that much square footage. When it was a mall, it had 2 stories, but not throughout the entire building. So in the center court area, there was a 2nd floor, but where we're at right now, this was a single-story mall. And it was just like this. It had this hallway. Of course, it was inside. And there were a couple restaurants that used to exist down this hallway. And there was a pet store, which you'll see there's still a pet store. And you'll also see that the tenants now are kind of odd. There are a lot of empty storefronts still. And there are a lot of these storefronts that I know have had tons of turnover. They've been a bunch of different things since this mall reopened in 2009. So my understanding is that it was closed from about 2006, late 2006 maybe, until it reopened in 2009. And this mall was originally built in 1974. And the developer that built this mall also built a neighboring mall, Southwest Plaza, that definitely contributed to the demise of Southglenn. It was just a bigger mall, more modern, and brought tons of customers that could have been going here over to it. So it's interesting that they built a neighboring mall that took down this one, but that's what they did. And over here, there's still this pet store, which there used to be a pet store in this location, and we bought one of our family cats there. So it was cool that they put in a new pet store location. So what you're looking at now is actually a library. So there are a lot of things that they've put into this mall. There's lots of restaurants, a library, a movie theater, all sorts of activities that you would come to do, which is definitely what brings people in, because as you can see, no one was down that corridor, no one was in any of those buildings. And I'm sure there were people in the library, but it's never exactly packed because there are quite a few libraries in this area. But here's another view of what it used to look like. Over to the left there is where there would have been a Walgreens. So there was a Walgreens, and over here on the right there would have been a B. Dalton bookstore. And those were some of the main places that I shopped. And here's what it looks like now with this old school Sears sign, which I love. But it does look completely different. Obviously they've modernized it so much, and I think it looks lovely. I do like these brick facades and that kind of thing. And then on the map there, it would have been parking structures back in the day, and it is still parking structures now. Though now we've got this fountain here in what would have been essentially the food court. And this was a pretty old school mall, so the food court, it was really just some tables in the middle of this area. And so there was like an Orange Julius and an Auntie Anne's Pretzels and a place that sold salads. It wasn't super fancy, but it was very nice. But as you can see here now, there are a couple restaurants here that I think was a sushi place, but they aren't exactly hopping today either. There aren't all that many people coming around here, unfortunately. And then obviously over here we have an H&M, which is kind of a modern anchor of this outdoor mall now. While they were building this H&M, it almost burned down. And here is a photo that I found from a news website about that. I found that to be frightening when that happened. I didn't live in the area at the time, but I remember thinking, oh, poor Southglenn. They just can't catch a break. And in a sense, they kind of can't. So here's what the old center court would have looked like with these glorious palm trees. Those palm trees definitely existed the whole time that I ever went to the mall. And so I believe the palm trees were pretty much original. And lots of these flower boxes, lots of chrome, glass. It was beautiful, very 70s and 80s. And now we've just got this, again, row of stores that are filled with boutiques that can't keep tenants. And above them, as you can see over there, this is actually one of these places where you can live. So if you like malls as much as, I guess, more than I do, and I love malls, but if you really love malls, you can live at them now. So these are luxury apartments. Luxury, maybe in quotations. I think they're very nice, they're very modern, but I think they are rather overpriced. And then there was a shop that has nobody in it. Some cool fixtures in there though. And so that is kind of the center court. And here's a photo of in the winter, they actually have an ice skating rink. And so it has become an area where people do come and hang out. So now we're gonna head over to what used to be Dillard's. So here are some more photos of what it looked like back in the day. This is definitely what I remember it looking like. We had this old school Abercrombie and Fitch that I thought I wasn't cool enough to go into. And then a lot of other shops. It was a pretty eclectic mall. The whole time that I shopped there were some smaller local places and then larger big box kind of stores. And the stores, there was a fair amount of turnover in the past 10 or 15 years that the mall had been open, which is characteristic of dead malls, I know. But some of these stores, these odd furniture stores, there's kind of a hunting and fishing thing, and then this baggage place, they stayed open for so much longer than they logically should have. I don't know how they managed it. But now, here we are again in what would have been kind of the center court area and heading down the hallway that would have led to Dillard's. And now as we head towards where Dillard's would have been, here's some more mall history for you about this location. So when this mall opened up in the 70s, it opened with the anchors Sears, May D&F, and Denver Dry Goods, which if you're not from this area, you have no idea what I'm talking about, potentially with a couple of those. By the time I was going to this mall, they had changed. So this exterior, this old photo, is what I remember the Dillard's looking like, but it wasn't always a Dillard's. It used to be a Joslyn's, which then became a Dillard's, and now has become a Whole Foods. So there's a Whole Foods, and as you can see, this line of Charming Charlie and a couple other things, and an Old Navy. So these stores now take up the physical spot that Dillard's used to. And note that the Dillard's was not original. The Joslyn's that became Dillard's was built after the mall opening. And you can see a spot here. There used to be a JCPenney's, but that closed well before the redevelopment. And then the Sears is original. And then on the map there you could see Foley's, which Foley's was bought by Macy's, but was originally May D&F. So May D&F, bought by Foley's, bought by Macy's. And here you can rent some space here, though again, I don't really recommend it because it's not exactly the most popular. But here we have what used to be Foley's, and here's a great picture of, this is exactly what I remember it looking like, this weird sugar cubey kind of building. But then this is what the Macy's looked like in 2006 when they took over. And so this is the Macy's from 2006. And it stayed open pretty much the entire time throughout the redevelopment of this mall. So did Sears. And I don't know exactly why they stayed, but the Dillard's did not stay. And this Macy's is a lot more popular and busy than that Sears was. And obviously it's a lot more updated as well because they changed a lot of the interior when Macy's took over Foley's, which Foley's was a Texas company and was pretty regional, and Macy's took over. I remember being really excited. We never had Macy's in Colorado when I was growing up, so I thought it was super fancy that we were getting a Macy's. I was like, ooh, we're big here in Denver now. And that just about brings us to the end of our tour of the streets of Southglenn, which is previously Southglenn Mall. So I plan on doing some similar videos of other malls in the area, so come check those out. And here's this cute little bug on this flower to end the video for us today. And As always, check out my boutique at www.shoppointboutique.com. We will see you next time.